So right here, this is kind of unique. I'm growing zucchini vertically. Usually zucchini takes, you know, I don't know how many feet, 10, 20 feet, just kind of sprawls out everywhere. Here I've got it tied up with baler twine, and it's growing vertically, so it's only taking up this much space. And it will continue growing until I get rid of the plant. It's a perennial.
And what does perennial mean?
It just keeps growing.
Okay.
We think that all these plants are annuals because they die when it gets cold. Well, if you control the temperature, which is the second law of plant growth, you can grow anything.
So it'll continue to produce.
These tomatoes will grow 5, 6, 7, 10 years and will continue to produce.
I didn't know that.
Yes. Something else you notice there, you could throw a cat through here and not hit a leaf. I prune leaves. I want lots of air and light to get through. So, and I don't have a bunch of leaves below the fruit. As the fruit is harvested, I remove the leaf from below too.
And these are here simply to stop you from hitting the plants with the hose as you walk around if you were to do
Correct.
that?
Correct.
Okay.
Also, this is handy if I notice that one of the holes is clogged, I can just hit it and knock that little clog out. This is celery here. Obviously, it's growing really well. These are chives. This is crinkly kale. These here are, I think it's 9 heads of lettuce. This is romaine lettuce. We've been eating off these 9 heads for 4 months and 3 weeks, almost 5 months. Instead of planting and planting and planting and planting lettuce, we just planted these 9 and kept eating them.
So that means back in like February you were eating off these when normally we can't even plant them till what, May or June?
Most people don't plant until
Memorial
weekend.
weekend.
Now this has gone to seed. The reason why it's gone to seed is because we haven't kept up with eating it. You can see down here where we were harvesting that my wife hasn't been out here harvesting hardly at all, and so it's gone to seed. So if you want your plants to last longer and produce more food, keep harvesting off of them.
So is that something you'll keep then in the planter box, or because it's seeds you take it out?
No,
or
it needs to come out.
Okay. So when a plant, it's kind of probably basic, but when it goes to seed like that, does that mean it's not going to produce fruit anymore?
Well, you know, the fruit is actually the seed.
Okay.
See, this here, this is seed.
Okay.
So that's the fruit. But for lettuce, we're not interested in eating the seeds, we're interested in eating the leaves.
So, but the leaves are still good to eat, correct?
Sure. Yep.
So you'll harvest all these leaves and then you'll pull it out and start over.
Correct. We already have the lettuce germinated, ready to come into the garden. So here we've got some more butternut squash. If you just turn around, come over here.
So can I ask you a question? Mm-hmm. So now since these leaves are turning, does that mean something?
Yeah, that means that they're older leaves. So curling leaves could be overwatering, underwatering, too cold, too hot. It can mean several different things. But I look at the whole health of the plant, and this isn't whiptail or anything like that. It's just older leaves, so I'm not concerned about it. It doesn't need any additional nutrients that I can tell. And it's more variety specific. As you look at other varieties of tomatoes I have in here, they don't have the curled leaves. But why don't you come over here and hold on this line here. Give you an idea.
Wow, that's heavy.
Of yeah, it's full of tomatoes.
Yeah.
I'm not growing leaves, I'm growing food.
Right.
So, what would your guess be on that? How much do you think that weighs?
I don't know. 50 pounds?
That's what my guess is. So you can see why we
And now you don't have to worry about that because you have it tied to
Right.
a wire about pulling your plant out.
Well, I have this tied. I have my plant. I have a 170-pound baler twine holding the plant up, and I'm putting it on the 2x4. I could put it on this wire inside, but by putting it on the 2x4, I get an extra 4 inches of space in between, which gives it more air.
What are you anchored to on the bottom end though? Because if you
That
pull too
wire.
hard.
Remember that wire? You had put in?
I see. Yeah.
That's what I was saying. doesn't have to worry about pulling the plant out because it's tied to the wire, not the plant itself.
So last year, my big beef tomato plants were 21 feet long because they will continue to produce as long as you have a good growing environment. And I wanted to see if I could get them to continue to produce. And so I would just add more baler twine to this, another 10 foot, and lower the plant down and let the plant grow up. And I would remove all the leaves below it. So here's another one here. Why don't you try see what this weighs here? It's pretty hefty, huh?
Yeah, that's pretty good.
That one even heavier?
I'd say it's probably 40, 50. But, and I think you've said before how much this baling twine will hold, which well exceeds what you're holding.
It's 170 pound baling
170
twine.
pound.
So I'm not too concerned about what it'll hold. What I am concerned of is the thickness, because if you can get 110 pound baler twine, and it's so thin it'll actually choke the plant. So
like
I want
a
thicker one because it's getting heavier and heavier and heavier. So the thicker it is, the more it spreads out the weight.
Gotcha.
Let's see.
Were you going to tell me to turn around and look at something back there?
Oh, just turn around and look at the beans.
They're already up to the top. So as they reach the top, you start to lower them because you're no longer producing beans on the bottom, and it's okay to drop them down, or?
Yeah, there's no way I can lower the beans. So here's carrots. These are green onions. These are carrots down here. I actually harvested 6 carrots that we transplanted from the house into the garden. Permanent tomatoes. These are bush tomatoes, so we don't grow them up twine, and we don't prune them. This is a celebrity, but we had space, so I thought I'd put some more tomatoes in there, so I have the experience of growing them. And this tomato plant needs to be tied up, so I'll show you how I do that.
And how do you know? Because it's starting to lean forward?
Yeah,
I see. You need to wrap it around the stalk more.
Right. So when I do this, I'm careful not to get leaves tangled into it, or to get the fruit tangled into it. It generally will come up underneath a leaf that will give me support as I wrap it. Mm-hmm. Notice I'm wrapping the twine around the plant. Never wrap the plant around the twine. That plant I had you hold up, I was teaching somebody to tie things up, and he wrapped the plant around the twine and broke the growing tip off.
Okay.
Like the sucker here. And I'm letting that grow as the growing tip now.
Okay.
So now that I've got that wrapped properly, I'll come up here, and we have to be very specific about the knot that we use. Otherwise, you can end up with a.
I was noticing that.
So I just put my finger right underneath the wood, go around my finger, hold it with my thumb, take the twine and go through the middle, and pull right through here, and that holds the plant. Now, as far as taking suckers off when we're growing vertically, here's a sucker here. See, here's the leaf. Here's the main stalk. Here's another tomato plant growing right here. If you take a look at this, that looks like a tomato plant, doesn't it?
Yes.
Can you tell me that again? How you knew what was what?
So another plant, and see, that looks like a tomato plant, doesn't it? Has the growing tip. You can actually see some fruit on here, some where blossoms would be. We don't want to be growing this. We only want to grow one tomato plant on one twine. So you notice how thick my stalks are.
And so why not? Why does it matter?
Because it will take energy away from the plant, which we don't want to do when we're growing it in this direction. Okay. Now, for the determinate tomatoes, we don't want to prune those because it puts the fruit on all at once. So if we took all the suckers off, which do produce fruit, we would really diminish the fruit. But you can see here we've got blossoms, and then we've got fruit. small fruit, and on the bottom we've got bigger fruit. This is a cherry tomato. And so it's in different stages, and it will continue to produce, unlike a determinate, which will produce all at once. So that's why we prune these and not the others. Outside garden, in the greenhouse we're growing in grow boxes to conserve space. Out here we're growing in soil beds, and it's just 4 sticks and 2 strings. No soil amendments, no compost, no mulch, no manure. At least not on purpose. We had some hay left over here from the previous homeowner, and it got turned into the soil when we cleared the area, and we had a million weeds there. So we get rid of that. It doesn't cost anything to grow in the dirt compared to having to buy lumber to build a grow box. The 6th law of plant growth is competition. So I put up a electric fence last night because we have raccoons getting into our corn.
So you have raccoons out.
And it's off. Come on in. All right, so
Is this electric? I'm sorry.
It is.
Yeah, he said it's off though.
And we
But you put it. Oh, is that why you were talking about the raccoons?
Yeah.
Right.
Okay.
Because they're coming in, pushing over my corn to see if it's ripe yet. So here are raspberries. My wife takes care of the raspberries, and we noticed in probably 90% of all the gardens I've been visiting the last couple weeks, the raspberries are all yellow. There's an iron deficiency going on. So my wife started feeding these the Midliner weekly feed and the pre-plant, and the yellowing is going away. So we did not have to give it any extra nutrients, but we had to give it its fundamental nutrients. Once it got the fundamentals, then it's getting enough what it needs. If people are not feeding the plants properly, they're going to have to give it iron because it's showing that symptom. But it may also be showing that it needs magnesium, and then they'll have to give it magnesium. So just give it a healthy diet, and it generally has usually 90% or more of all the plants, that's all that they need.
So do you test your soil when you're new somewhere, or do you just start planting and see what the plant tells you?
Yeah, we never test the soil.
Okay.
Jacob Midliner found in the 32 different countries that all soils are deficient, and some have high pH and some have low pH. So he made two recipes for the pre-plant fertilizer, which helps balance the pH in the garden. Here in a low rainfall, high desert area, we use gypsum for calcium. In Houston, where it's lots of rain, we use lime because it doesn't have sulfur and it will help balance the pH that way.
Okay.
So we've we've never planted corn before. You saw the next planting in the greenhouse. That's the 4th planting. This is the 3rd planting. This is the 2nd planting. And this is the 1st planting. I think it'll be better than knee-high by the 4th of July. It's taller than all your daughters. You can see it's already started to tassel. So people typically grow corn. My neighbor's corn is about this tall right now. They typically will plant it on Memorial Day, which is about 3 weeks ago, I guess. This was planted in February.
Because you started it there.
Because I started it in the seedling tray. Once it got to about the size of those in there, I came out here, planted it in here in the garden in March, and I put it underneath the mini greenhouse, which is plastic on top of these hoops.
And that method you tested in Texas. So you have a video on that, I believe.
Right, but I just followed the information in the Midliner Gardening Course book. So if the temperature is, once the temperature, if it goes below 50, I want to cover it.
Is that method on how you built it in the book as well, or is that your?
Yeah, this is just a 7-foot arch over here. The method that works, that I recommend. I don't recommend building a 4-foot wide soil bed. It's just too difficult to make it work. That's a pumpkin. So using the mini A-frames, I could have done the same thing if I had just done it on each of the rows. I wanted to see if I could plant corn closer together, see if that would help with pollination and wind and so forth.
So when we planted it in Arizona, as we talked about earlier, ours weren't pollinating. We had to Google it, find out what was going on, but we would go out and manually shake them to help pollinate.
Yeah.
Because either you need bees or a pollinator or something. So we had to manually shake ours.
Yeah. So
how do you water these? I don't see a watering line.
we use again, in the watering section of the Mid-Atlantic Gardening Course book, it shows you can use a towel tied to an end of a hose. And that's all we use.
Okay.
So my wife is using the hose to water the lawn right now.
But she's watering it at the root level or
so we just take that hose with the towel, throw it in the middle,
okay,
and it just slowly goes down the bed, and everything gets watered. We water once a day.
Okay.
So in the greenhouse where we have the very light sand and sawdust mix, it doesn't hold water like soil does. So I've never had to water more than once here a day.
Once a day?
But in the greenhouse, I'm watering 3 times a day for a minute. Here, I wait until I have at least 1 inch of standing water, then I turn the water off.
Okay, you got that?
Yep.
I did notice on your seedling video, you talked about putting like a cheesecloth or something down before you water. So there's obviously something to not just standing here with a hose and letting it destroy the soil.
Right.
There's something to dispersing that water so that it soaks down gently.
Right, exactly. So I also take the suckers off my corn, which will help produce better corn. So I'll show you over here, we had a raccoon in the garden the other day. See where they fish it over and then they tore into it? And that's why I have the electric fence.
And you find that that's enough to stop them? They don't jump over or whatever they do?
I don't even know if it's working yet. I'm still trying to, I just put it up last night.
Oh.
And so we didn't have any raccoons in here last night, but I don't know if it's working. I tried to test it with my voltmeter, blew up my voltmeter.
Oh.
It was an $8 voltmeter, so I figured before I touched it, I thought, okay, it's $8 if it, you know.
So
anyway.
you're a pretty technical guy. You're not putting motion censored video cameras out here to catch the varmints?
Well, I actually do have, what I am doing is a friend of mine's son hunts raccoons, so we'll bring his coon dog out and we'll hunt them. And then I also have perimeter security alerts, and so I do have my 22 and my night vision goggles ready. So if they do come during the night, I'll be notified and can take care of them. So here we've got garlic planted from garlic cloves. These are bush peas here. These are beans, bush beans, and these are bush beans also. These we transplanted from seedlings in the house, and these we planted inside the garden. Now you'll notice that these are much denser than these over here. Because here we put a seed in a hole, did our best to germinate it. Here we put a plant in a hole. So we knew that it was going to produce.
Right.
And then I put the squash on the end so it could vine out. And if you'll notice, where we have the squash growing, I've actually cut the vine so it no longer continues to grow.
From the base of it?
Oh, okay.
So just past that fruit, once we have fruit set, then...
I didn't know that. We never did that with the squash.
Otherwise it'll grow out 30, 40 feet.
Yeah,
home runners or something, it went everywhere.
That's exactly, it was all in the grass, it was everywhere.
So I don't want to be growing leaves, I want to grow, and I'll probably keep this down to 4 or 5 squash, which is pumpkin, and that's all I want with this plant. And because it's at the end, it was actually growing that way, and every day I would slowly turn the plant until it turned going this way.
Let me know if that starts to end.
Over here we have russet potatoes. People, these farms here, we're surrounded by potato fields. Hundreds of acres of potato fields. And people say, David, why are you growing potatoes in Idaho? Well, if I weren't, that means I'm dependent on getting my potatoes from somebody else. And they may grow great potatoes, but I don't know that. I've seen what they spray on their fields. These have not had any pesticides, any herbicides, no, nothing's been sprayed on these. I've simply watered them once a day and fed them weekly feed. I planted 96 potatoes and I had 3 that didn't come up. So 2 weeks ago I planted 3 potatoes here and they've all come up. So this will all fill in. That's a big rock.
And we grow rocks in Idaho.
Yeah. So these are 2 rows of potatoes. Obviously I will not need a weed in there anymore. There's no light going down there.
Did you alternate as you went down just like you did there?
So I just followed the planting schedule in the Mid-Latitude Gardening course book. So 8 inches apart in alternating rows. And it's a beautiful row of potatoes.
And does the book tell you how to, like, are these potatoes that had eyes that you quartered up and had an eye on each piece and planted those, or
you can
does it
do
tell
that.
you how to do that?
I just had really small, about egg size potatoes, and that's what I just put in here.
Put the whole thing in.
So if it was because I purposely was looking for small potatoes, for seed potatoes. Otherwise, I would cut larger potatoes into smaller pieces. Yeah.
So did you just go buy those at the grocery store?
Actually, somebody was getting rid of them, and so I just
Took them.
he was a professional potato farmer, so they were certified potatoes. They were good quality potatoes. So
What's going in over here?
all the plants that you'll be looking at here in a few moments.
Okay.
They're still young, so they're not old enough to go into this bed, but you can see how we pull the soil from the walkways, create a raised garden area, and then we'll make a ridge like we have over here, and that'll hold in the water and the nutrients.
Okay.
And this little girl here is going around laying eggs, and so she wants to have a bunch of worms in here. But the thing is that these plants are growing so fast, we're already blossoming. It's what, June 20th?
Correct.
And we already have blossoms on our potatoes, so these potatoes will be out before most potatoes are even getting started, and so we'll avoid the whole period of all the worm problems.
And we haven't talked about worms. Some people like earthworms or something like that in their gardens because the cats they lay or whatever. But I haven't heard you mention it, so that must mean that there's nothing about worms in the mid-lighter bed.
Yeah, please don't walk in that garden bed.
Oh yeah, don't
Bella.
step in there. Watch where you're going.
Why don't you guys go back to the tramp?
Yeah, people want worms for the castings to get the nutrients from the castings.
Okay.
So my question to them is, what percentage of that is magnesium? What percentage is boron? How much potassium does it have? We know plants need 16 nutrients in the right amounts and in the right ratios, just like we do. Well, basically they're just feeding their plants waste, and they have no idea what they're feeding them, whether they're getting overfed or underfed.
So instead you're giving them their nutrient they need and you don't need the worms.
That's right.
So let's do the seedlings before we run out of.
Okay, I'm gonna
We're wondering if the solar panels are indestructible. A few weeks ago we had a family over with 5 children. I was in the greenhouse with the mother and the mother-in-law, and I heard the mother and the grandmother, and I heard the grandmother yell, "Get off of there!" And so we came out here, and the kids were using the solar panels as a slippery slide.
Oh no.
Oh wow.
So you can see all the little hand and feet prints going up and the little butt prints sliding down.
Oh no.
But they were mortified. I wasn't worried about it because it's covered with tempered glass, just like the front of the window on your oven.
Oh,
So
okay.
it didn't scratch. I mean, I wasn't worried. No problem at all.
And you said something about why you had the wire mesh just on this one. Is
That's
that for the wiring?
That's the code. Yes, and that way animals can't get in there and chew on the wiring, and children can't reach inside and grab the wiring.
And they're concreted in, if you can show the bases.
If this here on this end goes down 6 feet deep, and the concrete comes all the way to the top. So you're a pretty good sized guy. Grab a hold of that. See if you can shake that.
Oh no, that's pretty solid. Yep.
So if you could get into that and touch that, is that like live, like it can shock you, or?
Yeah, there's the electricity going through right now because we're producing
Right.
electricity. But you'd have to disconnect the connections in order to get shocked.
Oh, okay.
What is that?
I don't know.
So now that you've had it for 9 months or more, I know you were a big dog solar fan. Do you still endorse big dog solar?
More so than ever.
Great.
Absolutely. I'd give Trevor a call at Big Dog and tell him that LDSPrepper sent you, and that way he knows you've already seen the quote on the internet. You've got all the pricing, and of course each install is different. Mine's pretty close to the house. If it was further away, it'd have a longer run. Trenching, if it were on the roof, it'd be different cost. You know, number of panels, whether you have batteries or not, all that is figured in. But I took the line item quote that Trevor gave me, priced everything out, and the only thing I paid for was labor. And I was paying for labor who knew what they were doing. Me, it would have been labor guessing what I was doing, and I didn't want a chance burning my house down. So,
And you even went further and labeled all of your panels or meters, so you knew which panel was not functioning up to par should you have an issue with a panel.
yeah, that's all by code.
Oh, okay.
If everything's labeled.
What are these your
So this is coarse sand, and this is
the
sawdust.
sawdust that you mix in with your?
This is for grow boxes. My wife is a certified herbalist. She's working on her master herbalist license.
Nice.
And this will all be herb gardens in here.
Ah,
So we're hoping to get those in sometime this year.
nice.
Kills that. Food that you're able to grow, do you can some of it to preserve it for later, or maybe dehydrate dehydrated?
Right now, yeah, we got the dehydrator going. I don't know what she has in here. Let's see.
What do you do with those?
I have no idea. I don't know what these are.
Like the Excalibur, I've heard that brand.
Yeah, it's really, in my opinion, the one to get. I don't know what she's dehydrating, but yeah, we do a lot of dehydrating. We do a lot of canning, but we eat primarily fresh. Probably 90% of it's fresh.
Because you grow year round.
Right. So these plants were started in this 18-inch box. We probably had 100 or more plants in there. As they got bigger, they needed more space so they weren't shadowing each other. So we bumped them up into 4-inch pots and then 6-inch pots here. And these will all go out into that 5th bed outside that we don't have planted yet. And then it's like over here, she's got something going, I'm not sure.
She just did that. Well, I'm sure you know that.
And it looks like it's a drying table. She got some more leaves in there, the same leaves that she has in there. I'm guessing this is for an herb tea that she's making.
I was gonna say it looked like maybe an herb. She was.
Yeah, she makes herb tinctures and teas and so forth. So those leaves are not leaves that we're planting. Those are raspberry leaves.
Oh.
Those are, so she must be making a
Raspberry tea. Oh, nice.
So if you really want to control your quality of your food, the availability of your food, and the price of your food, you have to get good at growing seedlings. I killed thousands of seedlings learning how to do it, but I'm really good now. And it was worth the price because now I'm in control of all those things. So we can plant whatever we want, whatever variety we want, whenever we want, because we're controlling the temperature with the greenhouse or with the mini greenhouses with the arches.
So I see that you guys start your seedlings in the house. Is the garage also a good place if you don't have the room in the house?
We put it in the house because that's where my wife wanted it, because it's convenient for us to walk by and peek to see how they're doing. The corn I started in the greenhouse. So anywhere that you have sufficient temperatures and light, you can grow. So in the basement would be fine if they're on a heat mat and have sufficient grow lights.
Okay.
Get a shot of the grow house from here, showing the outside.
Check something. Now in the seedlings.
So you made the box and you put the sawdust sand, and is that perlite in there?
Correct.
And
so the 18-inch box is made by per the specs in the Midnight Gardening Course book. And so you can see we've got a bunch of beets coming up right now. These are all germinated at the same temperature at the same time, and then others we actually had 2 boxes going. So these haven't been transplanted yet because they're not big enough to transplant, or they don't need to be transplanted yet. The other ones were filling up the box, so they need to be transplanted.
So how do you know when to move them to a bigger box?
When they're overlapping each other.
Okay, that's pretty
When they're
simple.
blocking the light.
Okay.
And so that's why we've got these still in here. I'm not sure what this is down here that's just germinating, but we've got lots of different things going on in here. And then we just transplant them.
So it goes from seedling, which is this box, to the smaller containers, over to, then you put them all in the bigger containers?
Well, depending on the weather and temperature will depend on how many steps we take. So you saw my corn in there.
Right.
That went from seed directly to the garden.
Okay.
I don't put them in pots because I've spaced them out enough so they're not shadowing each other. They're big enough, then I can now put them in directly into the garden. We don't have that bed ready yet for these to plant. These are now big enough to transplant, but last week they weren't. So we can put them in there. I do need to put some shade cloth over them to help with the heat because it's, you know, in the 90s right now.
Now, what if you were putting it into your garden, your enclosed garden, that's already tempered to exactly where it needs to be?
They would be fine.
So would you transplant them in that little, or no?
Yeah, well, you don't want to transplant. These would be fine to be transplanted now, but you don't want to transplant until they have the true leaves on them. So that each plant has seed leaves that push up through the soil, and then they'll get true leaves. Once they have true leaves, then you can plant them. We're not in a hurry to plant them. There's some things we need to take out of the greenhouse before we plant them. So
Basically, don't rush to plant them.
Right.
Because the longer they sit, sometimes the better they'll be when you go to move them.
To a point. At some point, they're going to say, "All right, I need
More.
all of the room I can get."
Okay.
And we're just giving them baby food, which is diluted midlighter weekly feed and water. Whereas in the garden, they'll get the full dose. But again, you don't want to get meat before milk. They have to be big enough, strong enough to take
Handle
that.
it. Okay.
Yep. That's pretty much
Sounds
all I
good.
know.
So I was gonna say, is there anything we've missed?
Not that I can think of.
Okay.
I would just, you know, everything I've shown you comes right out of the Midlighter Gardening Course book, except for the greenhouse. There is a greenhouse design in the book. I chose to build this one. The one in the book has some advantages for heating and cooling. You don't have to use fans. You can open it up. It has a ridge vent and the sides open up. So that works better for non-electrical cooling and heating. I wanted to do this. It was very inexpensive, and we can run the whole thing off a solar panel and a couple batteries if we wanted to, because the blowers only come on when the thermostat tells it to come on. So we're not using very much electricity.
So do you have a website like LDSPrepper.com where you talk about it other than the YouTube channels? So when people want more information, they can go to a website, or is all your stuff on YouTube?
Well, if they want to get information about the Midlighter Gardening Course and order the micronutrients, they need to go to midlightergardening.com.
So we can't go to yours and link to it to help you out in any way with the...
There are links there. You could go there. Either way, those are both affiliate links, so that those work either way.
Okay.
If you want to watch the video and then see, and there's usually links, resources below those videos to Home Depot or Amazon or midlightergardening.com. Just trying to help people save time and...
Yeah, and I like to promote that because you've put a bunch of time into the video, so if we can help you out by using your links, I definitely want to do that.
Yeah, that'd be great.
Okay. Do you have any more questions? What do you think?
That's it.
We've touched on the solar, we've touched on outdoor and indoor, we've touched on canning and dehydrating,
I don't know.
we've touched on seedling.
Do you keep the black screen over it year round, or do you only do that during the summer?
I just put that up this week.
Oh, okay.
So I only have that up there to reduce the heat.
Yeah.
So it's getting more light in there now than it was in the winter when we were growing, but it's getting less light with it on than I would have it with it out on, but it's reducing the heat.
And do you have a link to that shade somewhere? Or
I don't. You can find the shade cloth. You just do shade cloth, greenhouse shade cloth, and search for it on the internet. That is 40% shade cloth there.
40%. Okay.
It does have a pretty view out there.
Yeah, it is pretty.